Happy International Women's Week, a week that has been amazing as we've got to tell stories in line and in light of women, and definitely still looking forward to driving these stories until Women's Day celebrations on 8th March 2026. My name is Julie F. Nantaba. You are watching UBC TV. This is Good Morning Uganda. We come to you live from the Nile Avenue. I am with Robert Chirabonyonyitono and John Morunche. Good morning, John.
Good morning, Julie, and a very good morning to you, our viewers. It is a Friday. I always add the word special because we have interesting things that are going to happen here, including music. The skies are clear today morning, and because I think maybe it is promising to be a very bright morning and afternoon. That is if the weather does not change. But what a way to kickstart your weekend with that beautiful music. Shafiq must have woken up on his right side of the bed today. We enjoyed the music, Shafiq, and let's end the week with celebrating the weekly achievements and also ending at the pressure so that you can focus on being productive for the coming week. And let's let you know of what is happening around Uganda. One, it is a sad story, the fact that it is a Women's Week. There is a man, I should say a husband, hospital authorities at Mbarara Regional Referral Hospital seeking assistance for a 28-year-old mother who was reportedly abandoned by her husband after he learned she was expecting triplets. Now, Atayuri is a resident of Kagando Cell in the Nyakayo division, that is Mbara City, delivered triplets prematurely at 35 weeks. That was on February 3rd. And, you know, there are two girls and one boy. The children are currently admitted in hospital in the neonatal unit due to complications associated with premature birth. Robert.
This generation. Anyways, Robert, good morning.
Good morning to you, Judy.
As a gentleman at that, what would you speak into this?
First, many times I sit back and wonder how the Lord does his things. There are very many rich people that are looking for children and could even afford a dozen of them. But the Lord has not given them the children. Some today are going for, how do you call these babies? These scientific children.
IVF, yes.
IVF, some are going for those scientific children. Now, imagine, to the poor he gives 3. First and foremost, nurseries, as they call them, where they take those prematures. They're very expensive. I had my firstborn there. I was at Chibuli, but I think every day I was paying 400,000. Now, that is a government hospital. But believe you me, also there are some complications related there. So as a man, I know it can be scaring if someone is not really counseled properly. Even Asia, if a woman told you she has 3 children in that time,
You would freak out.
Of course you don't run. You stand up, but there is a way, you know, because kids are expensive.
And the fact that Robert, even the hospital, is already saying they are struggling to meet the needs of the mother, a full government hospital. So what about the man?
What about and God is funny. The way he does his things is mighty and we can't understand. For you may find that that man is even jobless.
So is this the best solution to run away?
And he looks and is overwhelmed. Now if he's not counseled very well, let me tell you, one time I think it was during the speaker, Rebecca Kadaga, where she talked about wives or women that come to parliament. When members of parliament fathered kids with them, but they're not looking after them. There's a place I don't want to mention the name, but it's a group of hospitals. When you go there, I went there for journalistic purposes. A friend of mine told me, and we had to go and do some. I saw how many people come to abort on daily. Corporate women driving. You're like, but why is this one going to kill a child? And the person tells you, I have 4 children, I can't have a 5th. And this person has a job. Leave alone those that maybe it was infidelity, now she knows the husband may find out. But so for that man, personally I understand what he could be going through. But that's not the best solution.
You know, you've shed light and thrown light. And therein, you've reminded me of, you know, the Uganda proverb, "Ebyambe bisekerwa."
Yeah.
And the statement made that most times people who are probably not well off, and allow me use the term, who are maybe in the dire states of poverty, most times give birth the most compared to
and maybe let's look at, we need to dissect into some other time if you get time, Julie, in how prepared one should be when about to give birth, including the men, because the lady stated that she had prepared 100,000, of which it is now used up, and she does not know what is coming next. But you as a man, you've not even equipped your woman with. Last time I saw
the 9 months.
The Uganda Corporate Games together with UBC, they gave out over 1,000 mama kits. That was a hospital, I think, in Oyam, northern Uganda. So if these other corporates are coming up to hope, what about you, the father of the children?
Now,
how do you give a woman 100,000 for birth?
You've heard from the lady, but we've not heard from the man. Like Julie said, and I've already said, I don't know how God does his things. People who are not in good financial state, these people can give birth. These people don't have challenges with their women or whatever getting pregnant. But you may find there are already 5 children home.
The husband is a builder.
But anyways, in line with that case that Joan has stated, one would want, as she has said, that the lady had prepared 100K, she had managed to collect 100K.
Exactly.
Over that. You can imagine over 9 months how much she's been saving.
And it's not that the man is unemployed.
Less, because these babies are premature, so it didn't hit the 9 months time. Now, for the gentleman, from the time he knew that she conceived, month 1, month 2, month, what has he been saving? What has he been doing?
Now we are making an assumption that this is a couple in good terms.
Yes.
Yes.
But there's also that maybe this man has 2 families.
Please, let's not sugarcoat anything, Robert, here. Let's be neutral here. Let's be fair to both sides, to both genders.
We have a male voice here. Give the male voice opportunity.
Please, yeah.
Now, 1, this man could have more than 1 family, or have very many kids as well, or they could even have had some misunderstandings, because you know certain times men are so overwhelmed with responsibilities that if not counseled and advised very well, you see the advantage with women, they share. Julie, when God was creating both genders, for you share your problems.
A problem solved is half solved.
A problem shared is half solved. But for the men who have this tendency of keeping to yourself, now where you reach a point where you're burning out and you end up doing the most stupid
Robert,
thing.
have you heard of postpartum depression? Do you know how grave it can be?
Indeed, it's grave. But also, I'm here thinking, well, yeah, there are cases where men are overwhelmed in many families, but one would still ask you, who asks you to get all these families? No one forces it on you.
And you know the birth control methods. Why don't you use protection? Why don't you?
Let me tell you, you've said who asks you.
For real, who asks you to have more than
one family that you cannot facilitate?
The women lure us into having another family.
Julie, this conversation might last.
Sometimes some men get other families not by choice, but because they have no option.
What
do you mean they have no option?
The first relationship is so toxic.
Okay.
You know, there are men who've died driving and roamed into vehicles and all that.
And they rammed into vehicles.
Do you know how many men fear to go back to their own homes? Men that have, I said earlier, men keep quiet. Sometimes the only option the man has is to leave and start another family.
So what guarantee do you have that this family will not be the so-called stressing woman? What guarantee do you have?
Fathered with you can live to see their father, and I provide for them.
So that
for the sake of these children, I'm tempted to get another family.
Is that a solution? Because I believe...
Because I will die. I'll end up dying in this relationship.
No, you can't go away from the relationship. You don't have to stay there.
But if this person
goes
away from the relationship... But then
another family has never been the solution. You still end up in the...
And what guarantee does he have that this family will be so peaceful with him?
Oh, I've seen quite many.
It's still a circle.
I've seen quite many who have left this family, the toxic family, but maintains and looks after that family and goes and finds a heaven on earth in another family.
No, that's so true. And from what you're saying, these people are even able to look after their children.
Yes,
look after
but Julie's context
but had they stayed in that So
Julie's context is,
Julie's
Julie's narrative is, why would you get a second family or third or fourth when you cannot facilitate them?
In the first place,
context.
You can't afford yourself.
You come and stress
you're
me.
Stressing Uganda and the government, and then you say government yet Uganda. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make utter sense. Anyways, let's have a look at what we have on the local scene this morning.
Well, what had you looked at before even I came in with? Robert,
let's have a look at what we have.
It's a Friday. It's a Friday, and sometimes
special edition.
We lighten up and wake you up on things that are not that very, very hard to crack on. But now let's go to the stories.
Okay.
Right.
Where the permanent secretary in the judiciary, Pius Bigirimana, was tasked to detail the claimants for the bail cash totaling to over 54 billion shillings. This follows the legal procedure that once a case has been disposed of, the beneficiaries should be refunded the bail cash collected. The judicial officers had appeared before the Parliamentary Committee on Public Accounts, Central, which is scrutinizing the audited report of the financial year 2024-2025. The judiciary was put on the spot for underutilization of funds and poor budgeting, rendering loss to government warrants. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs has advised Ugandans to temporarily halt traveling to the Middle East following the closure of airspace in parts of the region. According to the ministry's permanent secretary, and the security situation remains tense due to the ongoing conflict between Iran and Israel, advising Ugandans in the affected countries to adhere to directions given by the responsible embassies. The officials made the remarks while appearing before the Public Accounts Committee to respond to queries arised in the Auditor General's report for the financial year ending 2025. Government spot checks at Mbarara, Kabale and Masaka regional referral hospitals have revealed allegations of extortions by staff, non-functional critical health equipment, overcrowding and essential medicine shortages. The IGG, Lady Justice Aisha Naruze Batala, backed this while giving her first 100 days assessment in the office. The IGG vowed to intensify prosecution to 70% by the end of the financial year 2025-2026. 3 so far were arrested. The findings revealed that overcrowding and inadequate essential medicines were making the conditions unbearable by the patients. In her first 100 days in office, she appealed to government to provide and ensure that corruption is something that comes to an end. Moving on, the national leadership of the National Unity Platform convened at the headquarters for a meeting aimed at discussing the party's next course of action. The meeting brought together senior party officials and leaders from the Kampala sub-region. Key issues to focus on were the upcoming LC1, LC2 elections. The leaders were urging members and Ugandans to actively participate in these local council elections. And finally, from the local scene, the Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Thomas Tayebwa, has diffused the political tension in Mubende district, which had stalled even after the general elections. The tension and violence were the order of the day in Kasambia County as supporters of both MP-elect David Kabanda and rival Muhumuza were at loggerheads. Following a petition to the President, the Deputy Speaker chaired a meeting involving the two camps and they agreed to neutralize the situation. The two camps agreed to set aside disputes to ensure steady progress in the proper implementation of government programs to benefit all Ugandans and people in Mubende. Well, that brings us to the end of our local stories this morning. Let's see what Joanne has collected for us.
First of all, there is an engrossing event that is happening in the United States of America as a group of 24 states in the United States have sued U.S. President Donald Trump's administration in the first legal challenge to his newly imposed 10% global tariffs, alleging that the president cannot sidestep a recent U.S. Supreme Court ruling that invalidated most of his previous tariffs on imported goods by citing new legal authority. The Democratic-led states, including New York, California, and Oregon, in the lawsuit on Thursday, argue the new tariffs, which Trump announced immediately after the High Court ruling on February 20th, are also illegal. Trump has said the tariffs are essential to reduce America's long-standing trade deficits. He imposed duties under Section 122 of the Trade Act of 1974 after the Supreme Court struck down tariffs he imposed last year under an emergency powers law. Section 122, which has never been invoked, allows the president to impose tariffs of up to 15%. They are limited to 5 months, unless extended by Congress, and are meant to address short-term monetary emergencies, not routine trade deficits, according to the state's lawsuit filed in the New York-based U.S. Court of International Trade. The balance of payments deficit measures in the Trade Act are primarily intended to address archaic monetary risks that existed when foreign governments could trade dollars for gold held by the U.S., and this is according to the states. Trump, however, has misapplied that standard in an attempt to instead address U.S. trade deficits, which occur when a nation imports more than it exports, and this is still according to the states. Moving on to Venezuela, the United States and Venezuela agreed to re-establish diplomatic relations in a major shift in a historically adversarial relationship, the State Department said on Thursday. The United States and Venezuela's interim authorities have agreed to re-establish diplomatic and consular relations, the State Department said in a statement. This step will facilitate our joint efforts to promote stability, support economic recovery, and advance political reconciliation in Venezuela. The move comes after Trump administration officials have made several visits to the South American nation following a U.S. military operation that deposed former President Nicolas Maduro in January, and the latest by Interior Secretary Doug Burgum this week. The Trump administration has been stepping up pressure on Maduro loyalists now in power to accept its vision for the oil-rich nation. Relations between the two countries were cut off in 2019 during the first Trump administration in a decision by Maduro. They closed their embassies mutually after President Trump gave public support to Venezuelan opposition lawmaker Juan Guaido, who claimed to be the nation's interim president in January 2019. That same month, amid Venezuelan political unrest and violence, the Trump administration ordered all non-essential American diplomatic staff and government personnel to leave Venezuela. Forging forward, in Nigeria, conservative Anglicans meeting in Nigeria's capital Abuja have pulled back on plans to elect a rival primus inter pares, the Latin term meaning first among equals, which describes the Archbishop of Canterbury's position within the worldwide church, where Sarah Mullally is considered the ceremonial leader. Electing another person with the same title would have been seen by many as an open challenge to the leadership of the first female Archbishop of Canterbury, just weeks before she formally begins the job. Instead, the group, known as GAFCON, says it is leaving behind old structures and old titles and is now unveiling a new leadership council headed by Rwanda's Archbishop Laurent Mbanda. Reporters reacted with some puzzlement to news of the appointments as they were announced yesterday, with some suggesting it still amounted to an act of defiance. Asked repeatedly whether GAFCON members still recognize the supreme authority of the Archbishop of Canterbury, spokesperson Venerable Canon Justin Murph said, "The Global Anglican Council recognizes Archbishop Laurent Mbanda as its leader. Sarah Mullally is the Archbishop of Canterbury. There are some 95 million Anglicans around the world, with the Archbishop of Canterbury as their spiritual figurehead. I think this is a development from the discussion we had about having an Anglican female Archbishop.
Well, that particular story, anyways, this is my opinion.
Okay.
And it's Julie's. Do not attack anyone else, all right? Religion is such a mess. This is just my opinion. It's all a mess.
Look at how Robert is pandering.
Let's move on to what we have in the dailies. We're starting off with the new vision. Government raises salary for lower cadres.
Oh.
That's the headline on a rather.
Are we among the lower cadres?
By the way, that's a very good question.
Oh, we are the upper cadres.
Are we among the lower cadres? Oh, is there middle?
They must be. If there
there
is upper and lower, they must be middle.
They are middle.
Yes.
But then they're the most upper.
Exactly.
Upper.
Eh.
Most upper.
Anyways, deputy CAOs, assistant commissioners, mortuary attendants, it big. Perhaps we could fall somewhere.
And with the mortuary attendants.
Perhaps we could fall somewhere.
No, assistant
They said
commission.
CEOs.
Deputy cows,
Okay.
assistant commissioners,
Okay.
mortuary attendants, it big.
So
Now for
where
the
do you fall
mortuary
with the
attendants,
mortuary attendants?
I would say they need an increment. But let me tell you, a deputy
Commissioner.
that is
chief administration.
officer. Those people, even away from salary, are damn rich. You become a cow. My friend.
You already
You
know.
milk yourself.
Oh.
That position is
Where
fertile
does that
and
leave
fertile.
us? Below the cadres, below the level
Lower,
of cadres?
lower,
Now me, they have confused me. Once they talked about those working in the
In the
morgue,
mortuary,
then
you are beginning to align yourself with the deputy
then
cows.
they bring the people I thought already are high, because the deputy, yes, salary may be different, but when you look at, are they allowances or craftiness? A cow and a deputy cow, you go and look at their assets and what they are doing.
Right.
Those people are getting enough money.
Oh,
Come to
okay.
us first.
I know, right?
They could be having other
I mean,
businesses
they
also,
should
not
start-
necessarily government
But
salary.
surely
They
we
could
should be the ones on this list.
You as well.
But for the more,
Anyways,
Journalists- journalists,
moving
oh,
on,
you busy.
moving on. There is a picture there. Museveni speaks out
We
on
should be
Iran
the ones.
conflict and how ABC strategy slowed HIV/AIDS spread in Uganda. Also, Makoma concert on today at Kololo. Evacuated Ugandans return. Pastor Jessica Kayanja prays for stark women. Matters corruption, IGG probes for 14 billion shillings Chireka Market project, and tribute to engineer Kaheku, hero who lit Uganda rests. Education, passed O-level biology guide in there, and a crime ex-MP aspirant Ojera remanded over 17 million shillings FRA. Oh, it's actually fraud, but the spelling is written quite wrong. Anyways, let's move on to what we have in the Daily Monitor, is it? Or Daily Nation. The Daily Monitor there, yeah, Daily Monitor, Home Sweet Home. That is for Ugandans in Iran who returned home. Now, baby milk on market safe. That is in quotes, and the reassurance follows growing worries among parents coming hot on the heels of last month's global recall of selected brands of manufactured baby food over safety concerns. Long ride for borderman's son to a medical degree. Interesting story that one is, by the way. Now, moving on to the rest of East
his
Africa.
counterparts were looking at him and wondering, how did this man make it when the guy came at the workplace of the father?
Right, I know. In the Citizen in Tanzania, why growth of credit to mining has topped 90%, and EFC braces for high-stakes summit amid thorny issues. Over 400 gather for Rising Woman Initiative to champion leadership investment. Finally, the Daily Nation on there, looking at the headlines in the Daily Nation from Kenya, State House budget doubles to 17 billion shillings. That's the headline on there. And other stories, cancer patients turned away as KNH machine breaks down. Court allows police drug raids without warrants. Now, looking at what we have in the Gazette as of today, that is the 6th of March, table of contents on there, and notices to pay heed to, place of marriage to celebrate that one. There is Chiriatete Christian Fellowship Ministries, denomination Born Again, Village Chiriatete East, Parish Southern Ward, Sub-County Kahura Division, and County Chiriatete East District Hoima, given under the hand of Honorable Norbert Mao, Minister of Justice and Constitutional Affairs, as of the 12th day of February 2026. And another place of marriage to be celebrated and to take notice of, it's St. John's Burembo Church of Uganda, denomination Anglican Village Burembo Parish Nyabitete, Sub-County Bugangari, and the county is Rujumbura District, Rukunjiri, given under the hand of Honorable Norbert Mao, Minister of Justice and Constitutional Affairs, given as of 12th day of February 2026. And another place of marriage to be noticed is St. Luke Church of Uganda, Karukata Parish, denomination Anglican Village Chanju, Parish Ihunga, Sub-County Nyarushanje, County Rubabo District Rukunjiri, given under the hand of Honorable Norbert Mao as of the 18th day of February 2026. That's it from the dailies. Let's have a short break. We'll be back with another conversation. It's a Friday, so expect it indeed to be a Friday. Informative, but with a lot of chilled moments. Music while you learn and relearn on there. Plus, of course, conversation as we look forward to celebrating Women's Day. Good morning.
Live from UPC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.